John Steenhuisen is done as leader of the DA. He's stepping aside. Multiple sources in the DA confirmed he will not stand for leadership of the DA for the next term beginning just 2 months from now in April. Sources in the DA confirmed he was found guilty of bringing the party into disrepute. After all, his decline in popularity in light of his horrendous handling of the foot and mouth pandemic kind of anticipated this. The real question now is who is waiting in line to replace him as the new DA leader? I hope for the sake of the Democratic Alliance that it has the good sense to recognize that it cannot replace John Steenhuisen with someone who is likely to amplify the worst aspects of his leadership of the party while lacking the qualities that made him effective at best. And Steenhuisen did have some genuinely strong points. The new leader cannot be another liberal. South Africa is already saturated with left-wing politics. We already have the ANC, the EFF, the MKP, and many other parties for that. The DA does not need another progressive liberal voice. It needs a conservative if it wants to survive as a party. This person to lead the DA must instinctively recoil at the very idea of redistribution or equity or any of the words used to describe racial policy. The party cannot continue down this ANC-like line to even a full-on ANC pathway that John was taking the party on. They should also reject as a matter of principle any suggestion that taxpayers or ratepayers ought to carry an even heavier burden in modern South Africa, where people are getting poorer and poorer. Above all, they must be as close as practically possible to a private property absolutist. No flirting with expropriation without compensation like Dean McPherson did, no equivocation on property rights, and no concession to the ANC of the kind Helen Zille herself entertains so often when she speaks about working with the ANC. Under no circumstances should this leader treat the coalition with the ANC in the GNU as an article of faith. Every coalition decision must be guided by one simple question: what can we as the DA secure for our voters right now? And the answer can never be something slightly less terrible than what the ANC or the EFF would do. The new leader must put the interest of his own voters first, not the ANC voters streaming into his city like Jordan Hill-Lewis does right now. Unfortunately, given the DA's track record, they will most likely do the opposite of what I just described. Just yesterday, in the midst of this ongoing foot and mouth epidemic currently crippling our livestock farming in this country, John Steenhuisen, South Africa's Minister of Agriculture, the leader of the Democratic Alliance, announced he would not be seeking re-election as leader of the DA during this party's upcoming leadership election, scheduled for April this year. His decision follows mounting internal disputes, including disagreements over policy directions, handling of controversies, and the DA's position within the National Coalition government. These tensions have now eroded Steenhuisen's support from key factions within the party to such an extent that he, even as a sitting minister, has decided to withdraw from the race for the DA leader. Of course, there was the case with Deon George that accused him of using party funds to rake up almost 150,000 rands in debt on Uber Eats, which does not look good for him and may have contributed towards the decision that he has put the party in disrepute. But what will come next for the DA? Stay tuned, because in today's video I will analyze why this political party is facing perhaps the biggest succession and ideological crisis in its entire history. You see, let's go back to the beginning of how Steenhuisen became the leader in the first place. Steenhuisen was elected new federal leader of the DA right at the height of the COVID 2020 lockdowns, after having served as the party's interim leader since November 2019. At the time, he replaced Musi Maimane, who had served as the federal leader of the DA from 2015. Under Maimane's leadership, however, the DA slipped from 22% of the national vote in 2014 to a mere 20% in the 2019 election. Something had to be done, as it was evident that the strategy of having a black leader as the face of a neoliberal party did not pay off among black voters. Black voters in reality have never embraced liberalism of the DA in this country and never had more than 5% of black South Africans voted for the Liberal DA. Black South Africans simply rejected liberalism. It doesn't matter that Maimane was the leader of the Liberal Party. At the time, Steenhuisen was widely seen as the ideological successor to Musi Maimane for several reasons. He was already the party's chief whip in Parliament, he had the trust of his fellow MPs, he already had years of party experience, and he was widely perceived as a moderate liberal compared to the radical left-wing alternatives at the time, especially Maimane. Moreover, he had made a name for himself in public life in South Africa by showing signs of charisma during parliamentary debates. But it must be said that in this regard, he was aided a lot by the EFF's tendency, especially during the days of Jacob Zuma, of turning sessions in Parliament into an absolute circus where he performed so well. Take a look at this.
There's a point of order. Honourable Leader of the Opposition, can you take your seat? Honourable
Madam Speaker, when the Leader of the Opposition took his place at the podium, the Teletubby over there shouted, "Sell out." I would ask you to please rule that that is unparliamentary and ask him to withdraw that.
Honourable members.
On a point of order, Chair.
No, honourable member.
Point of order.
Honourable member.
This white boy mustn't come and
Honourable
undermine
member,
black people
I am
here.
dealing
That
with.
white boy mustn't come and undermine black people here.
Honourable member, whoever in those benches called the Leader of the Opposition a sellout, can you please withdraw that? Who said that? Honourable members of the EFF, who said that? I will have to deal with this matter outside of this sitting. Can the Leader of the Opposition please take the podium and proceed?
On a point of order, Speaker.
Honourable member.
On a point of order.
What's the point of order?
This man stood today here and called one member here a Teletubby. This man must be asked to withdraw. You must withdraw. You hurt him.
Honourable member.
No.
Honourable member.
He must withdraw. You hurt.
And so John Steenhuisen rose to the fore as the first ever non-black or non-Jewish person to be elected leader of the DA since its founding in the year 2000. And initially it looked almost as if the decision of selecting a white man to lead this party for the very first time in its history actually paid off. You see, right after he was elected as leader of the party in the 2021 municipal elections, the DA again rose to just over 21.6% of the national vote, while retaining firm control over the majority of municipalities, especially in the Western Cape. In the run-up to the 2024 elections, Steenhuisen became the face of what would become the failed Moonshot Pact, or multi-party charter, which was a pre-election agreement by a whole host of political parties from far left to far right to present a united front against the ANC and its ideological daughters, the EFF and the MK, which we knew from the very start, if you had any political knowledge, would never have worked, because 85% of all black people in this country vote for the ANC or one of their ideological daughters, and if the ANC loses votes, it only loses votes to these other parties such as the EFF and the MK. The multi-party charter included, along with the new Liberal DA, the more conservative parties such as the Inkatha Freedom Party, the Freedom Front Plus and the African Christian Democratic Party, as well as some more far-left parties. Following the election, Steenhuisen broke away from this pre-election partnership fantasy that they had built and became a major coalition partner in Cyril Ramaphosa's Government of National Unity coalition. And of course, since then, he has been instrumental in passing the most draconian and tyrannical laws in this country's history. Most notably the Expropriation Act. In many regards, John Steenhuisen, by remaining in coalition with the ANC following the darkest day of this country's history, the 23rd of January 2025, when Cyril Ramaphosa signed into law the Expropriation Act, bears co-responsibility. But on top of this, Steenhuisen went to the White House in May 2025, just a few months after Ramaphosa signed the act, and there he, with the whole world watching, defended Cyril Ramaphosa's tyranny. Take a look at this.
I also want to just say this, that the two individuals that are in that video that you've seen are both leaders of opposition minority parties in South Africa. Mkhonto weSizwe under Mr. Zuma and the economic freedom fighters under Mr. Malema. Now the reason that my party, the Democratic Alliance, which has been an opposition party for over 30 years, chose to join hands with Mr. Ramaphosa's party was precisely to keep those people out of power. We cannot have those people sitting in the union buildings making decisions. And that is why after 30 years of us exchanging barbs across the floor in Parliament and trying to get one over on each other, we've decided to join hands precisely to keep that lot out of government. Because the day they get in to the doors of the union buildings in South Africa or control of our parliament, that's what you're going to see. And that is why this government, working together, needs the support of our allies around the world so that we can strengthen our hand, grow our economy, and shut the door forever on that rabble.
But the final nail in the coffin for Steenhuisen as DA leader has been his escalating unpopularity as a result of how terrible he handled the foot and mouth disease outbreak that is currently devastating South Africa's agriculture. The consequences of the policies of Steenhuisen's Department of Agriculture have been nothing short of the complete and utter devastation of rural economies in this country, the shrinking of the agricultural industry, and rising food prices for already strained consumers all over this country. By centralizing and monopolizing government control in the name of fighting an epidemic that his department clearly had no control over, Steenhuisen has facilitated the destruction of farming communities that have sustained this country for multiple generations, or actually multiple centuries. The reason for his stepping down a mere 2 months prior to the Federal Elective Congress of the DA scheduled for April 2026 is therefore obvious. But the real news here that we must look at is that the man tipped to replace Steenhuisen is even more aligned with the extreme leftist liberalism that the DA has claimed to oppose for decades than Steenhuisen himself ever was. So who will come after Steenhuisen? Who will now lead the DA? The current mayor of Cape Town, Jordan Hill-Lewis, is widely being tipped to be the successor of Steenhuisen because of his prominent political profile, executive experience, and close association with the party's core structures, and particularly Helen Zille. Yet, Jordan Hill-Lewis is generally seen as ideologically much more of a leftist than John Steenhuisen is in terms of how he views the role of government. Where Steenhuisen has generally emphasized markets and private sector solutions, even when turning to state control when it mattered most, Hill-Lewis, as Cape Town mayor, has openly focused a lot more on active government intervention, large municipal housing programs for semi-migrants coming to Cape Town, and state-driven redress, or so-called redress in any case. In terms of social issues, the same holds true, as Hill-Lewis has been far more vocal in his endorsement of social liberal ideas, such as the LGBTQ whatever agenda, for example. And in simple terms, Steenhuisen leans towards classical liberalism, where Hill-Lewis is more of a social Marxist. His policies have been absolutely destructive to Capetonians, especially for the middle class and lower classes, and by facilitating mass migration into Cape Town from the Eastern Cape and making Cape Town's middle class pay for it, Jordan Hill-Lewis is effectively turning Cape Town into just another East London or Port Elizabeth. Many coloured voters throughout the Western Cape feel increasingly alienated from the DA and specifically Jordan Hill-Lewis because they believe the DA's social housing and inner city densification policies are transforming their neighbourhoods in ways that disadvantage long-standing coloured communities. In these areas, there is a widespread perception that the rapid influx of people from other parts of the country, particularly poor black migrants, has coincided with a massive rise in crime, massive overcrowding in their areas and in their schools, pressure on the municipal services, and tougher competition for an already very scarce job market in Cape Town. These concerns are deeply felt on the ground in coloured areas, and many coloured residents of Cape Town and the broader Western Cape feels the DA leadership dismisses them as irrelevant or just politically incorrect. Gayton McKenzie's Patriotic Alliance, on the other hand, has tapped directly into this frustration of the coloured population against the DA by promising to prioritise the coloured community, and as a result of this has steadily eroded the DA's traditional base in the Cape Flats and other working class coloured areas. Thus, Hill-Lewis is probably the single biggest reason for the rise of Gayton McKenzie and coloured voters abandoning the party en masse. And the same sadly holds true for other potential candidates whose names have been mentioned as potential successors to Steenhuisen, such as Siviwe Gwarube, who has so far been by far the most radically left-wing Minister of Basic Education that this country has ever seen. One who has for quite some time identified with the most radical leftist wing of the party. For example, in a statement on the LGBTQ rights in 2021 issued by Gwarube on behalf of the DA, she advocated for extending activism for the expansion of homosexual rights beyond the month of June. And she expressed her absolute commitment to transforming South Africa's culture, especially in the schools, when it comes to this issue. Gwarube, who openly describes herself as an unrepentant feminist, has also been at the forefront of the fight for increasingly liberal abortion laws in South Africa, including and most likely with regards to school children. Moreover, Dean McPherson, the current Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure and another potential successor, has openly defended the idea of expropriation without compensation, aligning himself with some of the most radical policies advocated by the ANC, EFF and MK Party. So over the past few years, the DA has ultimately followed in the footsteps of other liberal parties around the world in terms of gradually moving from classical liberalism to neoliberalism and eventually to social Marxism. But what makes their descent to the left particularly concerning is that some of the most prominent figures emerging as potential candidates for the new federal head of the party are now even embracing ideas associated with Leninism underpinned in the ANC ideology and their ideological daughters. The DA is now well and truly establishing itself as a moderate ANC with the ANC light policies that it endorses and promulgates. The end of the Steenhuisen era in the DA, therefore, does not signal a return to the classical liberal foundations of the party's ideology, but much rather a continued drift towards more radical and more destructive policies associated with full-on leftist big brother policies such as we can see in the GNU that the African National Congress has always been a proponent of. The party that once claimed to stand as the last major institutional barrier against the ANC is now busy perfecting a softer, better branded, better PR version of the same project that the ANC had been working on since 1994. None of the leaders emerging as potential successors to Steenhuisen has anything to offer apart from simply moving the party even much further down the path to radical leftist Marxism, and unless something fundamentally changes, South Africans should not expect the post-Steenhuisen DA to oppose the collapse of the country, but merely to manage the ANC's destructive policies more politely. In a recent video, we highlighted how the most likely successor to Steenhuisen, Jordan Hill-Lewis, is actively working against the best interests of native Cape Townians. Check out the full report by clicking on this link appearing on your screen right now. And if you like our content, be sure to support our work by becoming a paid member of the Willem Petzer Group. Only with your help, or with our members' help, are we able to continue making videos like this every single morning. Thanks, goodbye, and God bless.